Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Come on, what an incredible verse. One of the most famous verses in all of the Bible, a verse that speaks identity, a verse that speaks relationship, a verse that speaks purpose. And this is a verse that we can very easily apply to our own lives. But have you ever wondered, who is this verse addressed to? Like, who is the initial audience for this verse? Well, this verse and many other verses were addressed to a man named Joshua. And we find them in the book of Joshua. And the book of Joshua comes right after the death of Moses, right around 1300 BC. And it was written mostly by, you guessed it, Joshua. And the purpose of this book is to remind us that obedience is God's love language, and his love back to us is our deliverance, our freedom. See, Moses had been leading the Israelites through the desert towards the promised land. But like any good leader, Moses knew he wasn't a successful leader without a successor. And so all this time, Moses had been raising up a man named Joshua, someone ready to take the place of Moses after his time had passed, someone who followed God with all of their heart. And since Moses wasn't able to cross the Jordan into the promised land, the Israelites needed a leader to help get them there. And with the help of Moses, Joshua was that leader. And from the start of the book, Joshua is positioned to now go and lead the Israelites. And so the book of Joshua is broken up into 4 parts. The first 5 chapters are all about Joshua leading Israel into the promised land. The next 6 chapters are the battles that Joshua fights with the Canaanites. The next 10 chapters are all about Joshua dividing up the promised land between the 12 tribes. And the final 2 chapters are Joshua's farewell and commissioning. So Joshua starts this book by charging the Israelites to remain steadfast and obedient to God's commands. See, Joshua understands firsthand that success only comes by abiding in the word of God. And this is why in Joshua 1:8 it says, keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. See, Joshua is trying to remind them everything we need to win in life is right here, right in the word of God. Yes, he's promised us this land. Yes, he's good on his promises. So yes, he will deliver it to us. But Joshua understood that real life, true life, didn't come from the land. It came from hiding the word of God in your heart and walking it out by faith. And as they went further into the land, Joshua goes into the battle. And this is where we find a number of battles with the Canaanites, including the famous battle of Jericho, where for 6 days, the Israelites are commanded to walk around the walls of Jericho. And on the 7th day, the walls come crumbling down. And we also find the story of a man named Achan, who instead of devoting the treasures in gold he found in Jericho to the Lord, he actually devotes it himself and hides it underground. And just like a cancer, the sin of Achan spreads not just to the Israelites, but his own family, because that's what sin does. It doesn't just impact us, it impacts those around us. But what's interesting about the story of Achan and the story of Jericho is they are so backwards to the world's way of living. See, in the story of Achan, the world may say, of course, keep some of the money to yourself. Like, you worked for it, you earned it. There's plenty to go around, who cares? But in the story of Jericho, the world would say that instead of going to battle with your enemy, you're gonna just walk around the walls for 7 days? That's crazy, that makes no sense. But that's the difference between wisdom from the world and wisdom from God. And Joshua was a man who didn't live for the world's wisdom, he lived by God's wisdom. He didn't care about the approval of man. He wasn't afraid of conflict. He had a fear of the Lord. And he knew who he was and who God was calling him to be. And so he walked by faith and not by sight. And because of that, Joshua became one of the greatest leaders to ever walk the face of the earth. And as Joshua divides up the promised land between the 12 tribes, we see his commitment to the Lord one last time on display as he closes the book out by saying, but if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. Whether the gods of your ancestors serve beyond the Euphrates, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living, but as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. See, Joshua is saying, listen, I know your family. I know we just took this epic journey together, but I know who my God is, and I know he is where my hope comes from. See, time and time again, Joshua saw the glory of God on display in his life, but that didn't come without a cost. But Joshua counted the cost. He knew the love of the Father was worth his life, and all throughout the book of Joshua, that's exactly what we see, the love of the Father. It was the love of the Father that reminded the Israelites that God had a plan for them. It was the love of the Father that called them to reach the lost around them. It was the love of the Father that protected them and delivered them. And it was the love of the Father that gave them the choice to follow him. And through the book of Joshua, we see that same invitation is available to you and me. And so much like Joshua, would we become a person of love, a boldless and fearless leader who can say that no matter what, as for me, we will serve the Lord.